Welcome to today's episode of The Exceptional Caregiver's Life, a podcast about families navigating disabilities. We are thrilled to introduce two incredible caregivers joining us to discuss today's topic, gratitude. They'll share their unique perspective and how they found gratitude in their journeys. I'm Wendy Robertson.
And I'm Liz Phipps. Today's guests are Abe Velasco and Sharon Shelton. Abe is the father of Travis, a bright, funny, and caring 9-year-old boy with Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder. Abe tries his best to navigate the challenging FASD caregiving journey with hope, humor, and heart. Sharon is a dedicated professional currently on staff at Surrey Place as a caregiver coordinator, caregiver advisor. She's the proud mom of 2 remarkable children. Her eldest has been inspired by her bond with her brother and has pursued a meaningful path as a speech-language pathologist. Her son, Julian, a true fighter, has defied incredible odds, thriving almost 32 years of age despite being only given 3 months to live at birth. Sharon's personal journey is a testament to resilience, love, and unwavering strength. Hello, welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Sharon, I'd like to start off with you. Today is a special day in your community. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about November 22nd?
Sure. Julian has a very rare genetic disorder called Emmanuel syndrome, and it affects the 11 and 22 chromosomes. So hence 11 November 22. And today for us is Emmanuel Syndrome Awareness Day. Chromosomes 11 and 22 are very important chromosomes. And so when there is a trisomy, because of the translocation, many of the systems are affected. So children like Julian have extra material. And so it's very different for each child. And that makes it difficult for diagnosis, for early life-changing medical care. As you stated earlier, my ES warrior is Julian. He has defied the odds, living well past the 3 months that he was given. And we were told that should he pass the 3 months, he would never sit up, he would never walk, he would never talk. My 31-year-old, almost 32-year-old, walks, talks, has a black belt in Taekwondo. So my question, as always, is what do doctors know?
Well, that's an amazing journey, of course. That brings us right into the first question that we wanted to ask was, where do you find gratitude? And Sharon, I think I know where yours is.
Yeah. Gratitude we found very early. It was actually a necessity. To me, the opposite of gratitude is not ingratitude, but rather sadness. And, you get a diagnosis and you're sad. But then we get a diagnosis and we realize that because all the children are very different, Julian has more skills, more capacity than a lot of the others. So for us, that was great. He had holes in his heart. We were very sad. And they could not operate until he was 12 pounds. And he reached his 12 pounds on his first birthday. Gratitude and very loud cheers. So we had several episodes like that allowed us to find the gratitude.
Abe, do you want to share what gratitude means to you?
Sure. Thank you, Liz and Wendy. So just to give you some background, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder describes, the effect on the individual who is exposed to alcohol in the womb. So it is a lifelong disability and it impacts everyone in different ways. So for my son, who is now 9 years old, it manifests in different symptoms, including hyperactivity, struggle with regulating his emotions, executive functioning, impulsivity. So this shows up in different ways at home, at school, in the community, challenges with academics, challenges with developing and maintaining friendships. And as all of you could relate, it is very exhausting mentally, physically, emotionally. But prior to having a child, my husband and I, we went on an adoption journey. It took us 7 years to have this child. So just being matched with this child in 2016 was a gift in itself because we never thought it would happen. So whenever I have a really hard time, I really try to anchor it in that perspective. I'm generally an optimistic person, so I always try to live life with hope, humor, and heart. So for me, where I find gratitude from is just really understanding and celebrating the small wins. I remember when we were matched with Surrey Place, a developmental therapist at age 1, the thing I obsessed about when I laugh about it now is whether this child could stack 3 blocks on top of each other. Like, I wish that was the extent of my problems today. But, it's like really trying to celebrate the small wins and realizing that these are just gifts and really trying to anchor it to the fact that we've just been blessed to have this child in our life. I think for me, that is where I find the gratitude through the hard times.
I appreciate you both speaking to that because I do find gratitude can be a bit of a journey, right? We think of gratitude in the most positive of ways, but there's challenges associated with gratitude, correct? You both sort of shared where you've gotten it from, but you don't always have gratitude. I know personally, I haven't always experienced gratitude with my 20-year-old son with autism. I wouldn't say overall I feel grateful, but I have grateful moments. And I feel like the gratitude journey is what I'm constantly on. I feel fortunate in many ways, but I look at the gratitude moments versus just being overall a grateful person. Sharon, what challenges do you have around gratitude? I know you mentioned you were grateful at an early age, just given Julian's diagnosis and what they said how long he would live for. So you became grateful early, but between now and his almost 32 years, do you have challenges around feeling grateful?
That's an understatement. I certainly do. Julian has had tremendous medical issues. He is over them, or they're under control now. But what has kicked in is that he has moderate intellectual disability. And like Abe was saying, self-regulation issues. He, at 32, Julian's mind is one that people don't understand. I've had psychologists say to me, based on the tests, we do not understand what's going on because some of the tests that he does suggest that he cannot do what he is in fact doing. So getting that information on what he is able to do is very, very difficult. He is extremely bright in some areas, despite this so-called moderate intellectual disability. And so we never know how much to push him, where to push him. He lets us know. He is, sometimes in a good way, highly manipulative. I've been in psychologists' offices and I sit back and I'm giggling to myself because I'm thinking, oh, he is just playing you. He is. But whereas that may be funny at the time, it is also very challenging to know, how to deal with that. And I think the major issue right now is the behavioral challenges, because he is so capable of doing so many things, but, his behavior can get in the way. I would say that is right now our major, major challenge. But, again, like Abe, I am the eternal optimist. We go through those behavioral issues, then he comes back. He had a bit of a meltdown this last week, and I called him this morning, and his response was, "Hello, gorgeous. How are you today?" you have to accept that. You have to really understand the positivity behind something like that.
So, Abe, what kind of challenges do you face on a daily basis?
It's very interesting that Sharon brought up grief. And when you think about grief and gratitude, they both start with GR words. So I think of them as very polar opposites. I remember in the early days when my son was one, sitting in front of the TV watching the Magic School Bus, and I would just look at him and burst into tears because I of everything I've read about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and all the negative outlooks. And I do see that manifesting in daily life today. Now that he's 9, because of some of his challenges around regulating his emotions and impulsivity, when he loses it, I often get sworn at, or there's physical aggression. Thankfully, not too much, but there is enough that gets uncomfortable. And when these things manifest in public settings, you feel so judged. Not just by strangers, but by family. In the recent family luncheon, I was driving my aunt home and my son had a full-blown meltdown in the car, all because I took the phone away because he was swearing and, started hitting me while I was driving. So these kind of things really do test you and make you feel like, okay, I can't do this. But the interesting thing is I always do think of grief and gratitude as polar opposites. One can't exist without the other. So when you have those hard moments, and the flip side, and then when you do have moments when your son just knocks it out at a cross-country meet or scores really well in the spelling test or just comes up to you and gives you hugs and says, I love you, then those grateful moments are really contextualized by the really hard moments that you have. So I do feel like grief and gratitude are necessary opposites in this caregiving journey.
So research has shown practicing gratitude has healing qualities. As caregivers of exceptional children, how do you find gratitude in your day-to-day life? Sharon, what does gratitude look like for you day to day?
I am not the best at self-care, which, everybody says you need self-care. I am, well, not consciously anyway. My self-care is talking to my family. I meet with my siblings, ones who are all out of the country, and I meet with them every Sunday on Zoom. That to me is self-care. And then looking at the people that Julian has brought into our lives. To me, that's what I am most grateful for. And speaking with them and reaching out to them. His current caregiver said that she was so shocked that people were always coming by to see Julian and its previous caregivers. And she described it as he has a magnetic personality. And that he does. His sister, who I lean on probably too heavily at times, is who I am grateful for. Is one of my best friends when Julian was able to walk at 3.5 years, 2 months before her wedding. And, he walked down the aisle with her as the ring bearer. Those are the things that I am grateful for. And I remember them. I remember them all of the time. And there are things like perks that we often don't speak about. I don't know if you guys have experienced the perks.
Yes. You had also mentioned, Sharon, about your daughter coming home from Geneva Center one day. I'd like to tell us that story.
Yeah. She has grown, well, clearly she's 2 years older than Julian, and she's grown up with him. He's highly influenced her. She did a stint at Geneva Center. And one of the children was having a full-blown meltdown. Another one of the children came and stood next to her and said, I'm glad I'm not as autistic as he is. Her whole thing, she came home and she said, children with these special needs are amazing. Normal children tend to be a bit boring. So it's, again, Julian's influence on her.
That's great. Carly, my daughter Bridget has an identical twin sister, Carly. And every day, that is who I'm also grateful to. She is unbelievable. She's better with her sister than my husband and I are. She has so much patience, so much kindness. She's never raised her voice at her. She never gets angry at her when she messes up her room. She's just amazing. Yes, I'm totally grateful for both of them, but for Carly in this context, for being my, other than my husband, she's our rock. What about you, Liz?
Well, it's funny. There's certainly people I'm grateful for. And as mentioned, people really in the autism community who have really stood out and supported our family. And that's really in the form of certain respite workers, people in my son's programs that have had such a meaningful impact on his life. Those are the people that I hold near and dear to my heart and really have become family at the time. And many of them I'm still in contact with years and years later. The other thing I wanted to touch on was I'm also, grateful for moments in my son's life. And I think people out there and the co-hosts or the guests included can relate to grateful moments when you have a child with an exceptionality. And a big shout out to when my son was toilet trained and the party we threw, because it was such a moment, right? Some people celebrate when, their children hits a home run in a baseball game. And I understand that. But, Jack at 7 years older, obviously a bit late to the game. When he was toilet trained, it was just such a huge moment for him, our family. And I just remember feeling this was such an important moment in time. So, there's people, there's moments. I think I talked about that a little earlier. But Abe, I'd like you to chime in. And I really want to hear, with your journey, the grateful moments that you found.
Yeah, I think for me, thinking about how I find gratitude, it's very similar, right? I think it's all about perspective. I think about the phrase, the magical yet. Sometimes it takes things a little bit longer for our children. Sometimes it might not happen, but I always try to anchor it around the idea of yet. I also try to think of life as half full. I can't control a lot of things, but I can control how I react to them. Unlike Sharon, I know for me, self-care is, I really do try to make that part of my day. It's hard. I know, Sharon, it's really hard, where do you find the time to do this? So for me, it's really around trying to find times for exercise, nature hikes, green therapy, writing really helps me to process and reflect what's going on in a day. I pray. When I pray, it's more about trying to say things, think of things that happen in a day that I'm grateful for. I try to come up with 3. Sometimes one of them is just, I didn't strangle my child today, so I'm grateful for that. But usually I can find 3 really good things. And I think when you kind of realize that, wow, there are a lot of small things, what I find really powerful about gratitude, and Liz says it is a science, when you do anchor your day around gratitude, as hard as it is sometimes, you realize that, wow, you're really rich in a lot of things that matter the most in life.
A lot of people with, I don't want to, but people with special needs kids, absolutely. We celebrate those small wins that other families they take for granted. They don't even notice. And not their fault. They just don't have to. It's just because their child is developing normal. So yeah, we can celebrate these minute things to other people. Like, I promise you, I will be throwing a parade if Bridget ever becomes toilet trained, 100% toilet trained. There will be, fireworks and a parade. But, I can celebrate when she does go on her own. And yeah.
I mentioned briefly the perks, and these are not little things. When we went to Disney and Universal Studios, we did not have to stand in a line And that is major. I don't even like going on rides. And I went on rides simply because I was ushered in through the back door because of Julian. And there are perks like that. And
we're entitled to them, Sharon. We're entitled to those, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. So those are some of the things that people don't realize and don't remember. But, on a more personal note, it's the patience, it's the resilience. I mean, Julian has taught us resilience. And it's the unmitigated love. And you get that, no matter how terrible he may have been, he is, like I say, you call in the morning and you get, hello, gorgeous.
Oh.
He is, that's his thing.
I would be grateful for that too.
and that's the gratitude. And as I say, and the people that, are now some of my best friends, some of my longest friends, that's where my gratitude is.
Sharon, I love that. And I want to add in, as well on a macro level, I'm grateful I'm still married because this journey sometimes is not the best. In marriages, it's tough, right? Every day can be a bit of a battle. So I'm grateful I'm married. I'm grateful I have a 16-year-old daughter who's healthy and happy. I'm grateful for my neighborhood, for my home, for the work that I do, for the volunteer work that I do. And I am grateful for my son. And I know that I said this is a journey and I have grateful moments, but I do strongly feel that I've become a different person as a result of having my son. It's taken some time, but and every day can look a little different. But overall, I try to wake up and like Abe, see the world with a glass half full, see the positives, because what are the alternatives? What are they, right? To perseverate on, what could have been, what he could have done, who he could have been. I don't think that's healthy. But again, it's taken some time to get there.
Sharon, I want you to quickly just tell us the story about the picnic.
So there was an Emmanuel syndrome picnic. And as I say, there are varying levels within the Emmanuel syndrome community. And we went to the picnic, and a mom who had heard all about this boy came up to us. And of course, Julian was walking in on his own steam, one of the things that a lot of the kids can't do. And, she said, can he understand me? And he looks at her and said, of course I can. So it gave hope. It gave hope to a lot of them. Julian went on to lead a whole conversation with a group of adults that day on the fact that the garbage people were on strike. His father worked for one of the unions and he knew about this garbage strike, and people were just so blown away because they were given, he is absolutely a symbol of hope.
Right. That's amazing that he's a symbol of hope. And Abe, what about you?
I thought about what Liz said around the marriage piece. When one of my coworkers heard I was going through this process and, the child had prenatal alcohol, she said, oh, don't do it, Abe. I've known friends who've done this and it tore their marriage apart. And I always think about that. So for me, one of the things I'm most grateful for is my family and my spouse. 9 years into this journey, lots of ups and downs. We're still here. A lot of war wounds, but we're here.
Yeah.
I would say early on supports I'm very grateful for. It really sucked to have that prognosis from Surrey Place and formal diagnosis in 2022. but it opened up a lot of early intervention supports that helped our son's trajectory. He's doing well despite the challenges. Because of his diagnosis, we were able to get great supports in the school. He has an amazing child youth worker who's been with him for 3 years now in grade 4. Surrey Place, got to give a shout out. We could not have done this without them and all the services they provide. Just last night, my son, we finally matched him with a paw therapy volunteer who came, and he got to play with a dog because he's been begging for a dog, and we said no way. So that was a lot of fun. And the last thing I'll share really quickly is I think I'm most grateful for my son, right? Because it's not easy, but when you take a step back and look at the big picture, he's an amazing kid. Last year in grade 3, they had to do one of those standard tests. And for his writing assignment, they could pick any topic they want. He chose to write about his 2 dads and how thankful he was for his dad. And as CYW, when she told us this, she was like in tears, right? And of course, we were in tears. So
that's amazing.
I think that's what I try to remind myself. Yeah. It's hard, but it's wonderful.
There's silver linings. There's wonderful moments and terrible moments, right? And we just have to hold on to the good ones. You know, I'm grateful that the therapy started early. I'm grateful for these team of people that rallied around us. We now have a therapist that's been with us for 10 years, and she comes to our home. And I never thought I'd have somebody stay with us that long. And everybody loves her. She cruises into Geneva Center like she owns the joint, and to high school. And, you know, they're characters. Yeah. And I can't imagine being stuck in my head and not being able to talk. But I love how she just owns any situation she goes into. And she makes us laugh. She makes me want to kill her, but she also makes me laugh. And yes, I'm very grateful for my family. I haven't killed my husband. We are still together after 30 years. And, you know, this wasn't what we expected, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Okay, so I'm grateful for my extended family. I couldn't have made it this far without them. Love them dearly. And I want to thank our amazing guests, Abe and Sharon, for sharing their personal journey and their stories and how we all should feel grateful for these exceptional kids. Thanks for listening to The Exceptional Caregiver's Life. I'm Wendy Robertson.
And I'm Liz Phipps. This podcast was made possible by Surrey Place and the Family Advisory Council. Special thanks to lead podcasting team for their production support.
If you want to learn more about this topic or about Surrey Place and the FAC, please visit www.surreyplace.ca/podcasts. Be sure to sign up for the Surrey Place newsletter by scrolling to the bottom of the main Surrey Place page and subscribing.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please write us a review and subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date. We hope you can share this with someone who might enjoy it. Bye for now.